Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of Novice to Legendary. This is, again, the series of vlog journals that I'm doing to kind of document my journey as a beginning role player, as well as just some of my thoughts and tips for those also starting out. I admit it would almost seem kind of silly to do it from a beginner's perspective rather than say somebody's been going for years, decades, even like some of the other RPG YouTubers out there. But you know what? Last episode was on just starting, so this is me just starting on something besides just playing. So last time we talked about just starting and even just filling out the bare bones basics that are kind of your character that are required by your game system. So you got your character sheet, and maybe some little idea of the background and backstory, and you may be able to hear our vicious guard bird in this video and in other videos. This is kind of the reason why usually when I'm playing I have a headset, um, but I'm not always crazy about headset hair, so that's why I'm going bareheaded and micless for this, for at least for the time being. Anyways, you have your character sheet. You have some idea about at least what your character can do, at least a little bit, and you're going into your first session. What do you do? Well, if you have plenty of time before the session, you might want to kind of discuss with the game master, DM, whatever their name may be. Um, ours once just Russell once said that he would prefer to be called Cruel and Capricious God, and I followed suit by calling him Invidious, which happens to be the name of the main big bad deity of his game world. At least for right now. Apparently, there's like a bigger one, but he's kind of out of the picture at the moment. So, anyways, if you have plenty of time before the session starts, your first session starts, kind of maybe see if your DM would be open to working with you on how to incorporate your character into the story. Um, and then you kind of go from there. That kind of gives you a little bit of something to kind of you want to prepare for before your first session, so you can have at least a little bit of a plan of what to do before going in. But please keep in mind, uh, an old military adage is no plan survives contact with the enemy. No story or plot outline that the GM comes up with survives contact with the rest of the players in the group. So any plan, don't expect things to be completely set in stone. A lot of this is a game of improvisation, after all. Um, me, my experience in the first session was, I had actually come up with a character the night before the session, and I was a little busy the next day, the day of the session, so I didn't really get to talk things over with the DM, so I just had to roll with whatever was thrown my way. And what had happened was, the rest of the characters in the group had recently survived a pretty vicious attack on a nearby town, and had actually had to float downriver. Some of them a little more gracefully than others to get away, and yes, some of that involved some of them riding on top of Jayag, the turtle's shell, as he was just floating downstream. So they had made camp for the night and trying to just keep warm and keep a watch when, and as they were getting this camp set up, DM shifted focus to me and said, "Okay, Shearson, you are alone in the woods, and you see the light of what could be a campfire. What do you do?" You know, yay, newbies put on the spot. So I did what any, you know, what any tiefling with a sense of self-preservation in this world would do, especially if he happens to have a store of magic spells at hand. I cast Disguise Self and basically introduced myself to the group as a Christopher Walken wannabe who got lost when he strayed from his caravan. I have a bad sense of direction. And of course, again, this is a game of improvisation, and one of the characters who was in the group at the time was pretty much suspicious of everybody and managed to see through the whole ruse. So I had to drop the act and actually start coming up with a voice for Shearson. And this is pretty much what I came up with. Um, so it wasn't that difficult. Although it was kind of awkward. It was kind of hard for me to come up with the words. I mean, you'll notice right now. Sometimes I have to pause and fumble through things that I want to say. I had to do that in game, but I've gotten much better at that now. So I'm expecting, as I keep doing these, that will get better too. But luckily, the whole backstory of tieflings in this world kind of gave me a ready baked solution of the question, what is a tiefling doing in these woods by himself? Well, nobody else likes my kind. Where else would I be? Because I don't even know if that's fully the Shearson voice. It seems like I can only do it really consistently in game. Otherwise, it just feels like it changes all the time. Anyways, so there was actually a fair bit of opportunity in this first session for me to start role playing and start coming up with ideas for how my character would act. He's thrown in first couple sessions. Have thrown in some pretty crazy situations, like a combat shortly after introducing him to the group, where nearest character to him, which happened to be Bahashtor, my brother's human fighter character, had come close to death, and as it turns out, not for the first time, before or after I joined the group. So with how some of the attacks my attacks had gone, I decided to kind of change things up, and this kind of became a part of the Shearson's character. As I've said before, I tend to be pretty cautious and deliberative, and it can take a lot of convincing for me to actually kind of move forward with something. As I said may have said in my last video, my brother had been pretty persistent and insistent about me joining this campaign. So, as kind of that bit of stepping a little bit out of my comfort zone, I started playing Shearson as a little bit impulsive. I mean, how else are you going to describe a scrawny little wizard who charges at this big beast that had pretty much just taken down, this burly fighter in chainmail and everything, with his quarterstaff raised over his head, shouting, "Bite me, not him." And that all caused some, funny moments afterwards when the beast, failed to really bite me, but it was scary enough. I just went, okay, never mind. You can bite whoever you want. Anyways, this isn't going to be like a full recap of that session, play by play, but I got to I also got to in the next session. I got to encounter a little bit of the racism in this regard when a much stronger caster and a party of much more experienced adventurers actually saved our group's bacon in what could have been a very big, ugly, and scary fracas where we all would have died. But of course, he was just like always looking at me with this look of started looking at me with this look of disgust when I started saying anything. I'm used to that happening. Um, so, anyways, a lot of this kind of goes with the fact that your first session, every session you're a part of during whatever campaign you may be in, you're going to have times where you're going to be thrown in the spotlight. Or even if you mumble something on your breath, like my character did at one point, and still managed to get other people's attention. It's a good time for you to actually just kind of start figuring out how your character is going to act. And at first, Shearsman was very nervous, because again, it's a tiefling, this world that likes tieflings even less than your baseline, like than the Forgotten Realms, which is kind of the assumed setting of Dungeons and Dragons. You know, it's so he was a little nervous because there's that, and because of bits of his backstory that people have yet to run into as at the time of this recording, and also he's a necromancer, but nobody really knew about that. Surprised it took so long because all I was casting was necromancy spells because that was most of what I took. Because I we'll have another discussion on the different types of players, and I am the one that kind of more tries to go for narrative and story rather than trying to come up with an optimum build for my character. More go for the thematic element than trying to make the best use of whatever class options are available. Um, so your first few sessions, you're gonna have some times where you're gonna be likely gonna be in the spotlight, and it's okay to kind of be halting and awkward because you just don't really know what to say or do. Hopefully, whatever group you're in is going to be pretty patient with that. As long as you tell them, "Hey, I'm new to this." That's probably a good thing to do before the first session or before it really starts. Is I'm new to this whole thing, so be patient with me. Um, so it's okay to fumble through it. It's okay to kind of spectate a little bit. I wound up doing a lot of Shearsman was off to this kind of sidelined a lot, partly because I didn't know what to do or say because I was still trying to figure the character out, which again is totally fine. I eventually got some extra development and everything, and now everybody's saying now we can't get him to shut up, and that's a good thing. Um, and the other part of it was just the fact that I was getting a colossal kick out of the antics of Nick's character, Jayag, the turtle. So sometimes it's just like, I know my character should be here, but the stuff that he's doing is just so freaking hilarious that I just kind of prefer to just watch him go and do for a bit, which I think we all wind up getting stuck doing. And I think the nice thing is now everybody's starting to enjoy just kind of sitting back and letting the other players and characters have their own moments and just bask in the the joy and hilarity that can bring. So really, I mean, especially if you're like a more reserved type and you're not always quick with the witty repartee or just whatever you're trying to say in general, kind of like me, it takes a little bit. Be patient with yourself while you're asking others to be patient with you. And that's for right now. That's going to be the most of my thoughts for this video. Just you know, don't panic if you get thrown into the spotlight. Just say or do something, and let the rest of the story unfold however it may. For the time being, your first couple of sessions, you're still trying to find you may still be trying to figure out more of your character's backstory, some more of his personality, some more of his thought process, and you also might just be a little more shy and reserved than most folks. So you know it's it's just okay to first couple of sessions to just kind of hang back and maybe look for ways for your character to start fitting in and ways for you to actually kind of fill out different different what's the word I'm looking what are my words I'm looking for maybe some different maybe if I keep an eye out for different holes in the party to fill, whether that's adding behaving differently towards certain characters to add contrast, which I'll discuss later, and also maybe even more utility type of things. Maybe the group really needs more of a planner. So if you're kind of the one that's just kind of sitting back on the sidelines observing, that gives you the perfect opportunity to try and formulate plans and bring them to the group, which is something that can happen all too infrequent. It's rarely kind of a rare thing with a lot of role playing groups, especially ours. If you you know as you watch the game unfold, planning has not really been our strong suit, and it would actually be kind of cool to see that develop as everybody starts becoming more accustomed to how their characters function and work together. So that's all I have for today. Just first few sections. Be patient with yourself and you know do whatever you can with the spotlight when it comes up, and just enjoy listening to the story unfold as while your other characters have this have the limelight on them, and of course use those times where you're not in the limelight to maybe at least kind of let it percolate some ways that you could step out more, or maybe fill out the party better. Observe how the group is functioning right now and find ways to fill in any gaps that may come up. Till next time, happy gaming, start, and enjoy the journey.